Dear friends, good afternoon to everybody. I would like to start our section ecosystem and pause the usual redistribution of the market, but in the beginning I would like to say that yesterday is evening. I have ended it with Spotify section. I don't know how to go back to the dinosaurs. This hype is gone, it's almost missing. So let's touch the traditional finances. But I think that when the colleagues start to explain what they mean by platforms and ecosystems, they will also say a little bit about the digital development. So the esteemed panelists, Alexander Vedyakhin, first deputy chair of the board of Sberbank, then Vae Ovasapyan, Director General of Ozon FinTech, Svyatoslav Ostrovskiy, a member of the board Sberbank, and Alexander Kalinin, president of the Support of Russia, the Pillar of Russia, and remotely Anatoly Aksakov, head of the financial market, chairman of the Financial Markets Committee of the State Duma, will be taking part. My name is Vladimir Chistyukhin, first deputy chairman of the Central Bank. Just a few words. The ecosystems, the platforms, we will not be doing a strict division of those notions, but we need to pay attention to the fact that currently Russia is one of those countries which can boast of the development of that institute, and I, upon your permission, would like to say a few words by esteemed professor Mr. Ozon, who said that about how the platforms are being developed, and this is what he said. He has given a big interview, and what he said is the brightest example is that Russia is one of the 3 countries worldwide. Only 3 countries in the world give birth to digital ecosystems. It's China, Russia, and the US. No ecosystems were born in Europe. Therefore, the digital specialists, digital companies are being regulated as intervening companies. And we have few of them, Yandex and Sber. They have suffered from the sanctions. Also VK, Vkontakte, Mail.ru and VK in some combination maybe. So it's actually an outline of the future world. It's the future. The ecosystems are the future. And of course I cannot bypass with my attention that Russia has some uniqueness in terms of the development of the ecosystems, because for a long time credit organizations were the driver, the largest banks, which started to refer to themselves as big tech, removing the word bank from everywhere. We will keep calling them banks, but we want them to be seen as big tech. Classical platforms also do not lag behind. Retail platforms and digital platforms, they also claim to be large ecosystems, and in the framework of the competition, it's all being done. So I think we have to pay attention to what has been said on the first day of our conference, because the ecosystems and platforms topic has been touched upon. And I would like to start with a general question, and I think that Alexander Vedyakhin is maybe one of the representatives of Russia's largest ecosystem, and maybe an advanced institution would say the following. The topic of the ecosystems and the crisis conditions after the pandemic, is it still alive or not? Is there any space left for big innovations? Or are we just surviving? And I would try to put together the digital services. Yes, it lives. And the list of ecosystems actually is not finished. It's Professor Ozon. We will agree with him. But in my opinion, the list of ecosystems is a lot broader, and VTB also has such aspirations, and Slava can mention that as well. So I think there are many more ecosystems, and ecosystem. I think every organization, every company that has more than several million users is thinking about keeping those users, and the main idea is that we are revolving the entire system around the client, and as Sber, we have actually shortened our title. We are actually very short, and we have actually shortened our title. We're not Sberbank, but Sber, and we are making all the business around the client and concentrate around the client, and we have 102 million clients. We want to keep them. None of the clients want to receive credit as a credit or mortgage as a mortgage only, and they want to solve some of their problems. And in terms of the livelihood needs of the client, we are building those policies, and we are looking more towards partnerships than purchases. And the crisis not only has weakened the dynamics, but it has actually increased the dynamics, because during the crisis we should help the client, and the maximum request from the client is helping the client with the real needs and real something that the clients need. And so we have actually enhanced the development of the partnership, the developments of the ecosystems during this year, which is not very much connected with COVID. There are other historical challenges, but it is critically important. And when it comes to dinosaurs and everything else, and DeFi, I think this hype cycle, Gartner's hype cycle, the ecosystems were at the peak of expectations. Now they are dropping, and I think that in a year or two they will be on a plateau of normal performance, and that would be absolutely normal, like any stable business. And I think it's a very good dynamics, and DeFi is actually getting on the hype curve. There will be some disappointment, and so we hope that central bank will help us with that. And so I hope that Sber is a partnership type ecosystem. We should pay significant attention to that. It's serious breaking of the previous concept, and we will ask Alexander about it afterwards. So when we were in the acquisition paradigm, you have actually started to spread your network, and including non-financial services. It seemed to me then that many non-financial services have not reached the payback level. So now it's a more difficult situation. What does it make you do? You keep supporting them, you are reducing the investment, you are closing them. What are you doing? Both. Actually, three items. This year and the previous year we were actually very much oriented, and next years we will be oriented to controlling our costs and actually precision of the investment and returning of the investment. And it's an important story. It's a long story, and we have redefined the entire portfolio of our investment and focused on a number of trends which we consider strategic. We are actively going to e-com, to entertainment event. We are trying to do it with the partners. However, there is a number of other trends. You're not closing your movie direction. It's just a request from the regulator. Movies. What about them? well, you've just solved one of the tasks that we have set for ourselves in the framework of the budget planning. So which cereals do you prefer? Anatoly, you will can you also say what you like? We're talking about serials on the OCO network, OCO portal. Your position is very important for us. Can you just send us a list? We will take everything into account. Okay, agreed. So on this friendly note, I don't know what to ask you about. Actually, some time ago, when we were preparing a report about the regulation of financial institute based on the type of activity, we met a whole number of companies, and many of them were classical, such as Ozon and Yandex and others, and the rhetoric that was there consisted in two things. First of all, we are in a very limited way trying to access the financial services. Loans, credits, payments is okay. Anything else, such as insurance, investment, and other financial services, we are very far from that. That was the first thesis. And the second one was that it's good for some people. They have loads of money. They can invest a lot. Not necessarily. You're talking about Ozon? But for us, Ozon and Yandex and Mail.ru and others, we are short of funds and we cannot compete. So, in what positions are we now? So Alexander is watching you well. To the comment that we are an ecosystem, we are by far not an ecosystem. We should probably draft a definition, because everyone has their own understanding of an ecosystem, because to me it's a digital company which is trying to make a successful business on the some sector. And then it's moving it over to from sector X to sector Y. So in my opinion, it is an ecosystem, in my understanding, via different tools. So it's a single identification, data interface, brand. In my opinion, we are by no means an ecosystem. We have a very specialized activity, and we integrate in the classical understanding. We are a vertically integrated company. We are trying to be one. We are trying to connect what is connected with the trade, such as magnet, because which is delivering fresh from abroad. So it's a kind of integration for the quality control. So this is the kind of philosophy that we have, and not an ecosystem philosophy. In my opinion, in the first place, we are not going to make any investment making do the crediting of large companies. Our business is payment or crediting of SME who do the trading with our help, or each loans to natural entities, because we want to make easier the track of the client, the path of the client to the trading platforms. But so we don't only want to remain a financial company inside the marketplace, but we also make services for the marketplace, because we try to do something good, and it actually works out. And we try to transfer those technologies. So in the terms of the profits, we can compare that with the public reporting of another company. We didn't close the reporting, we have public reporting, and pretty soon we will report. Yandex also has never closed its public reporting, and it's actually very transparent, and one can see it. And in the third quarter on EBITDA, we have become slightly positive. So, in my opinion, we don't have a lot of money. We don't have any money to try. The only thing we can do is what is necessary for the survival, and or we want to get in the top where we can earn. So, in the framework of the plenary session, it's a time of opportunity, because you can purchase something, you can buy something quickly, promptly, but in the long term we will lose by competition, namely by the lowering of competition with the similar profile international companies. Our philosophy is that competition is always good, and we were growing up and we live as a marketplace and a financial company in a highly competitive market.
Что мы что-то новое пытаемся изобрести, чтобы завоевать эту долю рынка. И в этом отношении
but if we wanna invent something new, we are growing, and it's good for the client side, and for the company's profit maybe not, but for innovation it's also good. So actually, the reducing of the competition is also bad. But for the previous option, not so much money is necessary. So, from the point of view of purchasing, we're not viewing any shopping as our strategy. Our strategy is against focuses, and we are trying to do something with our own efforts. And if something is attractive in the market, we can consider it in our strategy, but we don't have an active purchasing, an active acquisition strategy. So now let's move over to Svyatoslav. Yesterday my boss told about your boss that it's a person who always says something about which others want to say, but they are either afraid or they are silent about it. So you, as an organization, for a long time, you were actually proponents of a partnership model, and you were actually insisting on it and explaining its advantages and disadvantages. So it would be stupid to ask the questions. So the colleagues from Sber, they're saying that they're very seriously considering the partnership model, but the question is probably as follows. Having in mind the fact that your status has changed, is it easy to find the partners, and to what extent those who are already in partnerships with you want to continue to work with you? And have any additional opportunities have appeared? And did you gain some insight whom to attract as partners? And what advantages or disadvantages do you see in the current situation, and also about the partnership model? What are the advantages on this track? Thank you for the question. The choice of the partnership model in general, the choice of the partnership model, we have actually determined for ourselves from the beginning that we can very well do the financial services, and we want to focus on that further, and we don't want to go into any adjacent businesses, and we do not want to distract the managerial attention, and we want to focus on what we can do well, and besides, and actually buying the players or building the players, we need to actually allocate the money for that, and we wanted to focus our capital on the core business, on the main business with which we are involved. So this issue actually did not occur to us. Besides, it was important for us to grow, and the growth of the client base is the main priority for us, also in the retail business, and therefore when you are a large player, we are a large player, but when you start to compete for the attention of the audience, which are greater than ours, 100 million, it becomes evident that when you compete for this attention, and when you take into account the fact that financial product is not the end need, it's an intermediate tool for the satisfaction of this end need. It has become obvious for us that we need to diversify and go beyond the limits of our end platforms. and the choice of the platform, of the partnership model became very obvious for us, and we in a quite focused way started to work in three directions. We in the first place want to distribute the product in our sites. We have, for example, I can give an example that we have the square meter residence ecosystem, and on this platform any citizen of the Russian Federation can actually solve the residence problem without starting from getting a policy and up to concluding a transaction. We have many banks on this platform, 40,000 realtors and 10,000 agencies, builders, etc., and we give choice to our clients, and that's an advantage of the partnership model, and actually the points that the clients get when they are using our financial products is something that they can spend on the services of the partners to which they are used. So we have many partners on the multi-bonus platform. We can actually spend those points in any stores where the clients buy stuff, and there's a possibility of a choice. We can actually give a choice to the client, also without spending money. It's one of the major factors. Besides, from the point of view of the advantages, it is obvious that capital intensity, we don't need to spend too much money on that, and also we can actually quite easily adjust our product proposals. It's easy to change it as if it was something that we provide ourselves, and it's easier to change it. And has anything changed over the last year and a half? Yes, it did. If in the first place we see that our clients are becoming cautious over the last year and 2.5 years, we managed to build a very high-tech platform, and it has been mentioned yesterday in the form of program interfaces, software interfaces, which any large or small player can use to build their own fintech. You can integrate on the proposals under your own brand, and we have partners, I will not nominate them, but who are actually working on our platforms, and there is no VTB brand, and we have actually learned a lot of things, and many projects that we wanted to potentially implement are in the frozen stage due to the fact that in the first place it's connected with the general economic situation. Also, the colleagues are all now focused on working in their core business, and for many, the integration of their product and the services has gone to the background. And we see where we don't need to be concerned, where we do need to be concerned. We are working, we are stable, we are making good services, and we still have large-scale local players, and I think it's a question of time. And I hope that when the partner topic will be further developing, it's something that one needs to follow, but you said very precisely that the big increment figures that we actually so many players came to marketplaces, so we shouldn't expect many new players to come to the marketplace. Speaking about the success in the terms of the business of the entire VTB group, we have good figures on the residence ecosystem platform. The influx of business is about 10%, 50%, and we get additional income from it. And when we're talking in the scale of a group, there are several projects, and we are using our own platform to attract our own clients, and you can actually easily become the client of VTB, and from that point of view it had effect. Whether we managed to achieve the effect that we wanted to achieve, no, because those projects have not been launched, and we managed to redefine the guideposts, the targets to which we were aspiring. And we've heard to 3 representatives of ecosystems, platforms of the market, and that's a professional side which is organizing those services. And in view of still given the reduction of investment opportunities, this area is still developing, and it's important. And given all the streamlining, the colleagues are investing in it, and they understand that it needs to move further. And now one feels like, I feel like asking Alexander Kalinin what to do with the sellers, with manufacturers. There is a classical option. Let's defend the consumer, and the protection of the rights of the consumer is something to which a central bank pays a lot of attention, and those sellers who come to large platforms, who come to ecosystems, in your opinion, are they protected enough? And does it make sense to think about any special protection mechanisms from the point of view of a softer or more intense protection? And the colleagues actually mentioned that they develop the services in such a way to make it comfortable. But do you think that for the people who come to those platforms, it's comfortable or not? So if you're talking about ecosystems, we actually live there, we do not come there, because we take Sberbank. Sberbank already of the SMEs market is already with the Sberbank. So it's like water in which we live, whether it's comfortable or not, it's not a question. So the Sberbank, for instance, with the Sberbank, we have a partnership agreement, and we have a channel through which 100,000 entrepreneurs who are connected with the pillar of Russia or support of Russia, OPORA organization. In principle, you know, complaint is the best gift, or the book is in the Sberbank library. Maybe the channel does not work like we want it to work, but still we are working at it. And in many ecosystems we don't have that channel, and we don't have that partnership relationship. For example, quite recently, just yesterday, we have launched this feedback channel with Wildberries, and we actually want to create compliance service for Wildberries in order to clean the service. Because the faster the ecosystem is growing, the more aggressive it is behaving in the market, and the more problems are accumulating, and the quality is lagging behind the growth. And that's a problem with any developing business, whether it be a marketplace. A marketplace that's actually very aggressive promo. Sometimes you cannot get through, call the operator, and we have a whole list, many different problems that the customers encounter. And there have been about 200 people on the video conference, entrepreneurs. It got hung up. So it's there is a lot of interest to try to purge, to clean up the ecosystem. So we want to earn more, and so for them KPI is profit. Unfortunately, the main KPI for them. And on the other hand, for people not to leave, they want to feel comfortable. And the first thing that we want to pay attention to is a dilemma. It's imposing discriminatory conditions. If I'm so cool, if I have millions of users, why not use it? And why not impose discriminatory conditions? With the banks, it's a commission for payment, like up to 10% for suspicious payment. If you pay 10%, the payment is not suspicious anymore. So it's 1, 2, 3, 5, 10%. So we often contact banks in that respect, and you have helped us this spring, and acquiring as well. It reaches 3%, and businesses complain about it very often. And in Europe, the acquiring has changed, and debit cards is very small, and credit because it's a different sum. So the first problem is when the ecosystem, when it's using the fact that it's an ecosystem, is imposing additional payments which the clients of the ecosystem consider economically unfeasible. And the second thing is the growth. When the ecosystem starts to get into the niches of the small business which is working traditionally, the drugstores, taxis, cleaning, education, etc. And I actually studied at the Sberbank University myself, and I know that there was a powerful machine that was actually training digital managers to capture the new markets, seize the new markets. And $1 trillion in profits. Of course, one understands that many people come over who are proposing to use this money at the expense of what? It's good that you are still in 2021. It's nice to hear $1 trillion in profits. Yes, I'm already in 2022. We saw the 50 billion as a figure, but I actually have gone through this. When you start to earn well, many people want to help you to actually use your profit, and it turns out that actually the ecosystems are constantly provoking people to get on the market, and small businesses are working there and then get ruined, and you really need to have regulatory effort. If you are in the drugstores, in the pharmacies market, then Federal Anti-Monopoly Service needs to connect and to get in and start to sort it out. And when you are capturing new markets, you're starting to look at your services. In China, there are no Russian banks. So the only branch is of VTB in Shanghai, and we cannot affect payments. If the systems were spending more money to create more affiliates with Sberbank, it's good that Sberbank has a bank in India, but they have not been developing the banking services. And the system of confirming the payments is B2B, so it's actually in such a condition that it actually, if they purchased the pharmacies, there would have been a different situation with the cross-border payments. I think I wanted to call you to refer to you officially. I think these guys are going to start doing something, because the ecosystems have large databases. Of course, it gives additional competitive edges, AI and other things, and we need to provide for safety, and that we don't want to avoid large monopolies and having clients' profile. I want to pull in the suppliers whom we want to involve, but there should be some regulation, and the intervention of the regulator is necessary in some places, but there should be the principle do not harm. But of course the best thing is to actually start twisting your hands, but it's good that the number of services are actually recognized as extremist ones. Now you can develop your big tech services when your competitors are weakened. And if the big tech has grown out of logistical services or financial services, you have to be number one on the financial services and the logistics. So you have set a dilemma in front of me, so I can actually keep a long pause. Yes, I want to hear you. Okay, thank you very much, Alexander. I actually have recorded things and tried to memorize things. But let's try to start from the terminals. And our favorite topic about the acquiring, once again understand that there are several models, two different models of working with acquiring. One is in Europe we have smaller rates because the small businesses buy the terminals themselves, and the price of the terminal for the majority of SMEs is not accessible, not affordable. So we know how the cards are serviced. Europe is behind us by about 10 to 15 years because those whom you call monopolists, not only Sber but other banks, they are putting on the most advanced terminals, and they actually depreciate their cost by the payments. Of course, the rates have to be relevant. When it comes to international payments, whoever has problems with payment to China, we do make payments to China like the VTB as well. Actually, colleagues, we are not actively promoting the topic of international payments because, as simple experience shows, whoever comes forward and says how everything good, the next shell actually hits him, the next shot. So we are just saying that everything is bad. I actually want to understand how come you don't have a bank in China? I'm laughing because I got an SMS 2 days ago. I've been asked once. We actually are fighting with the People's Bank of China, as means Sberbank, and you're also fighting with them. Actually, you wrote to me at night, I will definitely support you. Yes, I must have had a sleepless night. And so there is your responsibility as well, that we are not in China. Actually, Sberbank is running payments, and the largest banks are actually effecting payments in national currencies. And for that end, it's just for general development. Otherwise, we would have to have subsidiary banks in all the countries, and it would be completely devoid of any sense. So we always agreed that platform is a good assistance. Because the poor service providers, for example, tutors in different subjects in the marketplace, they can get a lot broader client base than if they were walking around from door to door visiting their friends and acquaintances. We know many people who are working using Moscow rates from other cities in Russia. I think it's my kids, for example, use the services of such tutors. And I think having virtual platforms, it's actually a plus. I know that you are a moderator and Anatoly has crossed hands already. No, we are not going to let him do it. Won't give him anything. My short message is that we are helping small businesses, and Alexander has mentioned it, and when concerns the digital literacy training, we invite everyone to our university, and for Alexander it will be useful. Thank you very much. Thank you. Anatoly, I would like to actually have colleagues from different sides say a few words about how the platforms and ecosystems are functioning today, and I can actually say about the government and the central bank, given the fact that we are, until we have put forward any legislative initiative in this field, but there were many discussions, quite vocal discussions, so what do you think? Are we already mature enough for some regulation in this field, or should we give the platforms and ecosystems give an opportunity to sort of breed those ideas and without the participation of any regulator or any legislator? And what does your expertise of working with voters help you? So in terms of the ecosystem vision, is everything going okay or not legislatively? Due to my work as the person who is in charge of the interface with the VTBs, Ozon and Sberbank as well, and Yandex, those large ecosystems, they are large ecosystems which have a lot of advantages, and people have on themselves experienced the impact of those organizations and their ecosystems. And I am in touch with Alexander and Sberbank, and many people are voicing their dissatisfaction, and many are asking uncomfortable questions that clients are being taken away from us, they are pushed away from the market. Sometimes they are being involved, getting involved in the ecosystems of the certain businesses or parties, and sometimes those parties and those businesses which get involved in certain ecosystems, they have problems with getting out of those ecosystems. So I think now, from the regulatory point of view, and especially legislative point of view, I think that governing our quite young ecosystems, I think we shouldn't be doing that. They should be developing, and they should be competing between each other. And of course there is not enough competition, but the state itself should be trying to do something to become in the first place the central platform from the point of view of interface with businesses and people, and to some extent create competition to those largest ecosystems in the first place, and then on the other hand to create conditions for SME to get to unfold, to deploy their capabilities, and sometimes you have to act in a very harsh way. And there are good examples when the state and the central bank have, for example, have created the fast payment system, and due to that system the settlements have become very active, at least inside our country. Also the national payment card system is also working for the entire market, even though initially there has been some resistance from our larger financial organizations. At least there have been discussions where they opposed that idea, where we could have sensed some resistance. So the central bank and the government, on the other hand, is showing good examples when we were creating a platform for the small businesses, medium-sized business. And they are working in many directions, not promptly enough and not always effectively enough. And there was this interdepartmental digital interface, which actually causes different objections and comments, because the efficiency of this interface, due to various reasons, among other things, because the state is taking part, and from that point of view it's not always an effective participant, but this process is also necessary, because the state has to be a kind of a digital platform that should be moving forward and have the majority of the public sector services available in a digital format, and also to some extent it should be creating stimuli for our companies, including Sber, Ozon and VTB, to move faster forward, because the businesses have to be faster than the state, and their the way they operate, and so we should not intervene in this process. And we are not in the best external conditions, so we should be trying to do everything for the large businesses to actually aggregate, accumulate the ideas and implement them inside the country, and create their part of the infrastructure which would enable SMEs to feel quieter, more confident, and they would be always able to find the alternative via the state structure. So let's give the surgeons an opportunity to run different operations. Now they are completely filled with it, and give the ecosystems to preventive medicine. So Ozon has joined the initiatives to self-regulation initiative in the field of electronic commerce, and it's one of actually the softer version of regulation. It's self-restrictions which the market players apply in order to create quality services and create certain unified rules of the game. Do you think it's a justified model, and do you have any critique against some participants of the market who do not observe certain rules? So in what way do you think this soft regulation is capable of creating the necessary rules of the game, and on the other hand protect the consumers and suppliers of the services? I think the current self-regulation in electronic commerce is actually showing that it's effective, and there is interface which is built with SMEs and the sector, and I think this entire sector, and of course large players are quite disciplined. We don't have anything to observe concerning people not following the rules. We also follow the rules. So there is it's a highly competitive environment, and I think that others will also appreciate it. So I think it's better to do it like that, and I think that the public bodies actually, the way they think is to go to regulate the ecosystems, and one of their goals is to perform the regulation. So when we enter the financial sector, even though financial sector is a very interesting piece because it's a large sector within the economy, there is a lot of profit. At least there was a lot of profit in 2021, and I think this we actually were all scared of that because it seemed impossible. So it was better not to go there. On the other hand, where there is small regulation, there will be actually high competition if there is money in there, but there are no people who do not want to go in the big sectors where there is a lot of money to be earned. So I think self-regulation will yield competition. Actually, I want to open your eyes on this financial world. There is a lot of masochism, and some people want to remove some restrictions, but some players are used to it. They say do not remove them. So when we were talking about the fast payment system, if it didn't exist, we probably wouldn't have access to that market, because it's hard how to ask people to transfer the money to a different bank for free. So many initiatives. The main thing is to adjust the opportunities, but not adjust the result. Yes, the neutrality of regulation is very important, but actually, let me ask you one more question. Alexander mentioned that there are certain comments related to financial services, but I think that the self-regulation standard that has been established, it can be changing, and there can be changes made to it, and Tatiana Bakalchuk has come to OPORA Russia, the pillar of Russia, and I think Sergei Belikov, yes, Tatiana has already spoken, and I think Sergei Belikov would also like to do that, and Sergei is actually interfacing quite actively. So also, colleagues, I would like to say that we have recently familiarized with the presentation of one of the British regulators who was considering the functioning of ecosystems and platforms, probably because they were considering them as intervening agents, and they actually, because for them 5 years period is already gone, and they said that nothing should be done in the context of some kind of a harsh regulation, and only soft methods have to be used. So we are more or less working in the same direction. I also have a question to Svyatoslav. The topic of Ozon, it has a partnership model, and you have partnership model. And when we spoke with the banks before, they said you have standard number 1, standard number 2. There is compliance, Pod FT and others, and these people have come over. There are no restrictions; they do anything they want. It's not exactly so, but so do you think the internal arbitration, the regulatory arbitration topic, is it applicable? Is it significant? And is there enough competition? Is everyone for competition? And is it does it exist? Or is it supported on the level on which it is being used now? So the financial services, the services to which the clients are used, and different alternative forms of funding, of purchasing, the first thing that we really want to do is for everyone to be in a single set of conditions, and so it's a single service. So for me, the main question is whether today's regulation can provide for the good, positive client experience with acceptable risks for the financial system and the consumer, which would enable the clients to have this kind of a seamless experience to which the clients are used, because I was at the source of online banking. I know then when it was only something very scary, very new, novel, and there were many approaches to consultations. We didn't know how to work with it, and gradually the market has made it accessible, it has become customary, and certainly the client experience in online banking, financial services, digital services now has become one of the best ones in the world, and certain things have actually become international standards. For example, when the application is added to Apple Pay, like Apple Pay has taken some technologies from Russia and replicated them worldwide. So we have looked at the services. Some consumers are taking their services from some internet grounds, they take them at the bank, and so the regulation which exists today, does it allow maybe some to adjust certain parts of that regulation? And is it, do you think it's possible or not? So, but why don't you like clearing? I have people from Sberbank come to me for cleaning, and also people from VTB come to me for cleaning. Actually, they create their own cleaning, and not only for me, but also for others. Today it's cleaning, tomorrow it's food, then it's tablets, taxes, we'll have taxes, and so it's always a monopoly. Ecosystem is always a monopoly. If it were not a monopoly, then it would have to create complete internal compliance. Otherwise, the entire monopoly of financial services would create the compliance instead of it. And so the question is whether the ecosystem is capable of creating a good compliance. But if we take Ozon or Wildberries, we have 5 questions: quality of this customer support service, unilateral change of the terms of the contract, payment, paid return of the goods, etc. So why if Wildberries creates the set of rules, and they would say that we are a leader, we are the team, everything for the client. I have just quoted the mission of the Sberbank. If they adjust the principles of the return of the goods, then we don't need a surgeon with an axe or something. This is how you see a surgeon, right? We want to see the compliance principle in the ecosystem in which people live. So, under the influence of previous sections where, like it was said, DeFi, I think the colleagues will answer promptly. Anatoly has left us, so I would like to ask the following. On your platforms and your ecosystems, are you seeing any development of DeFi technologies? Briefly, yes. We have our own platform, and CFA, those tokens can be connected with non-financial assets, and we are looking at the application not exactly from the financial point of view. So Sberbank is 181 years old today, it's an anniversary. Vae, yes, briefly, yes. When the regulation, but DeFi I feel should be actually approached very cautiously, because we started this type of credit and we were trying to aggregate natural persons who loan money to legal entities. But then we realized at some point that it's not an appropriate scheme, because there is too much on the natural persons. They do not understand it very well. They ask too much premium, too much overhead. So with DeFi, you have to be very careful. You have to use the correct balance. But on the whole, we are only for it. Svyatoslav, brief answer is yes, and we are also piloting various types of digital funding, various assets, and we will be taking part very actively, and the turnover of this product is something that we envisage. Alexander, DeFi, I think if it's done on the basis of blockchain, and SMEs do not have that much money, so yes, you just enter this segment of the market. Yes, you should be more careful with this. Of course, we have many possibilities, many opportunities, and the main thing of interest for us is what's going to happen with the digital ruble in the future. Yes, I hope it's interesting, Alexander. Yes, you have actually read our presentation, our report about decentralized finances, and there will be a token for non-cash payments, and then we will go to distributed, reach the distributed registers, and I also recommend you to go to Shenzhen more frequently, visit it more frequently. So we should follow the example of the Chinese, because they can also very briefly, today are the foreign ecosystems and platforms, are they a threat or not in the current situation? In 2023, or not in current situation, but in 2023, they were never a threat. They always gave an opportunity to our platforms, to our services to grow. And unfortunately, their absence may have a negative adverse impact on the future growth. We know how Avi has dropped, and Avita has dropped, and we see many others drop. It used to be everything that came from the West used to be a challenge, but here I agree with Vae, because when we don't have technology competitors, it leads to stagnation. It's good when there are different players where we compete with others. Those who are present here, it's good. And the consumer then wins, but we need to have external competition in order to be challenged. So yes, I have the same opinion. So it's actually a kind of a standard which is set by large tech players, and the tech has actually pushed us to move forward faster. And so materially it's not a threat, but from the point of view of client's experience, it's not a threat. And we should come... It wasn't a threat, and we should continue the competition. So there is nothing we can do without internet, and we have to have ecosystems, but we also have to retain some space for SMEs, because sometimes something is born, generated by SMEs, which cannot be produced by larger ones. The regulation should be made accordingly, because sometimes the SMEs can create something which is highly demanded and feasible. So I've been to another section, and one of them said, this is the end of the banks. They are going to just die. But with the SMEs, everything is going to be fine. So ecosystem and systems and platforms are going to develop. Harsh regulation, as the participants said, is not necessary. Self-regulation and market control is enough, but still some acute questions need to be discussed with the consumers and sellers. There is a certain general consensus, and the competition, both external and external, is always an advantage for the development of the ecosystems and platforms and ecosystems and services for the benefit of the consumers.